Here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Real Table Talk. We are here. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Real Table Talk. We technical problems. Just bear with us. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Real Table Talk. We technical problems. Just bear with us. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Real Table Talk. We technical problems. Just bear with us. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. Real Table Talk. What is going on?
Just minimize.
What is going on?
There you go.
No, but we.
No, just. There we go. There we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome. Real Table Talk. Here we are. I do apologise. We're coming on so late today. We are meant to be here at 5 o'clock, but we have had a few technical problems, so I do apologise for being late with you all today. So let me introduce myself. My name is Leslie O'Connor, and I am the founder of Real Table Talk. And I'm also with my co-host, Marcia Hilton. Marcia, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, everyone. Marcia Hilton here, and I am a coach specialising in supporting women who've been through toxic relationships, and I help them create healthy new ones. That's me.
Thank you very much. And today we have got a special guest with us, Sonia Harris. And Sonia is going to be talking all about relationships. So Sonia, welcome. And I do apologise for being late coming on the platform today. We've just had a few technical problems.
Not a problem, it's fine.
Okay, so Sonia, please introduce yourself to our audience today.
So I'm Sonia Harris of Relationships A to Z. I am a relationship coach. I've been working in the area of relationships for over 15 years now, and I specialise in working with all types of people, but in particular I have a real heart for single people, and so what I like to do is take people on a journey from where they are to where they want to be. I encourage them to create their own vision, and then we work towards getting to that destination. I enjoy working with people and taking them on a journey, and celebrating their wins with them. So yeah, it's a passion of mine. I love doing it. I spend every day, all day talking about relationships, and I haven't got tired yet. So I guess that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a real good thing. So
yeah.
what made you first of all, because I'm a single woman, so what can you do then for a single woman in, to get ready for a relationship?
Oh, how long have we got? So what I love to do is, for example, I would meet with you, Leslie, on a one-to-one basis initially. We would do a consultation because I think it's really important for us to decide whether we can have a working relationship, if whether, we're speaking each other's language, and whether you feel that I could help you. If we establish that, yes, we want to go on this journey, what I would then do is I would start at the beginning. Really, most people aren't aware of the differences between coaching and counseling. And counseling very much looks at your past and talks about, where you've been and the healing and the hurts and the things that need to be recovered from what's gone before. With coaching, ideally, you would start from the current day and move forward, as in what you want to achieve and how the coach can help you to get there. But with relationship coaching, I do need to go back a bit because I need to understand where you're coming from, what your exposure to relationships have been, what you were exposed to growing up as a child, and what your logic is around relationships. So if you've been exposed to abusive relationships, you may see that as a child, you may see that as that's what a relationship is. That's the norm. And so people are going into relationships as adults, not having seen what a healthy adult relationship or marriage looks like. So I would take you on a journey with me to find out where you're coming from, to sum it up, and then we would start to look at what are your aspirations, what are your dreams, what would you like to see happen. Forget the person for a moment, we'd look at that. Then we begin to flip the mirror and we start to look at you. because quite often we make these lists of what we want in the other person, don't we? But we need to look at what you have to offer, what you're willing to offer, and then we begin that journey where we begin to launch. Let's get out there now and let's begin the journey of trying to find that person, or allowing that person to find you in the best possible presentation that you have to offer for them. So it's a journey that we go on together, and I do it either via one-to-ones or with group sessions with other people, which is so powerful.
Right.
So powerful.
Okay, wow, that sounds really interesting.
Some people get a bit scared and think, oh my gosh, I don't want to do all that work. But the thing is, if you don't, you either do it with me or you do it with the person that you marry and live with. So the choice is yours. You can separate from me, you can come away and take a break. But if you don't do any preparation and you go into this relationship and marriage, you may find yourself doing a lot of that work in the relationship, and that can be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay, wow.
Okay. Can I ask a question, Sonia?
Yeah.
I know that part of your work, you have something called Rooted in Relationships.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So Rooted for Relationships was birthed by myself and my husband a number of years ago, because what we discovered, particularly in churches, is that there was a lot of teaching and a lot of ministries and things that would cover people that were married or preparing for marriage. There wasn't quite so much for single people. And so Rooted for Relationships was birthed from our own experiences and what we felt we could have really done with, what would have really helped us as single people to get ready for marriage. So that's like a 6-session series that we do. I've also written a book on it as well for those people who can't make the sessions, but what tends to happen is people come to the sessions, and once they're done, they say, I wish my sister was here, I wish my cousin was here, I wish my friend was here. And we say, well, here's the book, get it for them, give it to them. And so that course covers a lot of the content that we will talk about with single people with regards to preparing yourself, again taking up the torch off the other person, but putting the mirror on yourself and seeing where you can begin to prepare, how you can set your standards, your boundaries in a relationship, the things to look out for in yourself. Is there any work that needs to be done on yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually? You know, it's the whole package. And the thing is, I think my niche is, I do like to keep it real. And I will say some things that others may feel uncomfortable to say. I'll say it with love, but I will keep it real. And I do a lot of practical application. So rather than just speak at you, I'll say, come on, let's do this together, you know, and I will do role plays. And there's all sorts of things I might pull out on you, but it's all for your benefit. So don't worry.
Thinking, so is it all necessary? Well, is it all necessary? Yeah. You know, to do all this, to work on all this for that relationship, because you've done that work and then you've got to do the work then within that relationship, what you're in. Yeah,
but what happens is, if you do a lot of the work on yourself as a single person, you'll have less of that work to do in the relationship. The relationship can now focus on the relationship, because remember, as you're well aware, you're a whole person, the other person is a whole person. You've both got your past and your histories and your stuff, you know, that you bring to the relationship. Trust me when I say that's enough to be getting on with. You don't want to be dealing with your individual stuff as well, and there will be some of that, because when you're now joining with someone else in marriage or in a relationship, you'll find that it brings things out of you that you may not have even known were there. Yeah. Or that you'd kind of buried. My husband always says when he got married, it was the hardest thing, because he had put so much of his past and things that he didn't really want to be reminded of. He packed it all away in a box, you know, sealed it in cement and buried it somewhere. And along came me, and I start asking questions, or life starts bringing up things, and, you know, and little things would niggle him, and he couldn't understand why. And it was because it was things from the past that he'd not wanted to deal with. Yeah. A marriage will do that for you, hourly. It'll bring up things for you, that you may not want to deal with.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So to our audience, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Sonia, please don't be shy. Just leave them in the comments. Please be a part of this. We want to interact with you. That's what these conversations are all about. So Sonia, Mike, so we was talking, so the work what you're doing, do you do this, is it for men and women, or is it for just, who's it for?
So there are some courses that I do are for men and women. The Rooted for Relationships is for men and women. I do another one that I've just completed actually a couple of days ago, which is the 30-day dating challenge. That's an intense course. That's content every day being sent through to you with an activity or an action point for you, and on a daily basis. So it's like an accelerated course of preparing for dating. And that's open to men as well. With the live series that I do, that's for women. So, and the live series is, I initially recorded a podcast at the very beginning of the first lockdown. I recorded this podcast, which was the A to Z of godly relationships.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's like literally every letter of the alphabet has content to it. So from that, the response I got, I mean, at the moment it's in over 60 countries, you know, thousands of listeners, and I never imagined that that would be the case. So I kind of had to build on that. So I created a journal that goes with the single version of it. There's a journal that goes with that. And then what I then did was created a course whereby I am live now with each person that signed up, and we go through the content. So they listen to the content themselves, then they come on with me on a weekly basis and we expand on each section. And so I will bring additional content, I'll expand on the content, we'll go deep, we'll laugh, I'll throw in a few surprises. They have their journal with them, I've got one here. So their little A to Z journal, I don't know if you can see that very well. And in there, it's got all my scribbles in, but it's basically, they work through this with me. So we go on this journey together and they work through it. And that one is specifically for women because we're working as a group. Normally, ideally, I wouldn't want to take more than 20 people in a group because I like to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions. And you get those who are very vocal, those who are more quiet. But the beauty of working in a group is that you hear questions and answers that you maybe didn't even imagine for yourself. So you're getting that additional content. And you also realize you're not alone in this. For everything that you're thinking or feeling, there's someone else that's also feeling this thing. And it gives you a sense of, you know, like you're not weird. You're not crazy. You're not the only one that's fearful of relationships or, you know, that kind of thing. So it's a real, that one is weekly. But we spend 90 minutes together, and then I give an activity to do throughout the week. And it really is a breaking down of self. Just really breaking down and putting the mirror on yourself and realizing that I thought I was ready, but actually I've got some stuff to deal with, I've got some stuff to do. Or it's confirmation that you really are ready.
So, and what made you start this? Was it, all the women who were coming on? Is it women who have been in a relationship already, and or is this their first, or they've been in a marriage and it hasn't worked out? You know, what sort of people actually talk?
All of the above. All of the above. So you get some women who have been in relationships, have been married and then now divorced. Some are widowed. You get some who are single and young. You've got some that have never dated at all. Some are very fearful of dating. Some are fearful of, you know, they have dated and it didn't turn out well and they've been in horrible, maybe abusive relationships. And now they're thinking, I don't want to go into that again, but my heart yearns to do life with someone. I want to have a family with someone. I want to build life with someone. And we get everything from sort of early 20s to 60s. You know, there's such a full range of women that come on. But to answer your question, it was birthed because when my husband and I started doing the Rooted for Relationships course, we then wrote the book. And when I started to write the book, I stopped for a minute and I thought, well, what qualifies you? Why would somebody pick that book up? You need to kind of give a bit of a background as to your own journey. And so I started to write the introduction to the Rooted book, and that introduction became a whole book in itself. It just kept going and going and going. And so I ended up releasing the other book first, and then I did the Rooted book. And I thought, right, I'm done. Mission accomplished, I am done. And then I woke up one morning a few years back, and all I had on my mind was the A to Z of relationships. And I assumed it was another book. And I was resistant. I'd been through 2 books already. I wasn't in the mood to write another book. And so I just wrote down the title and I left it. It wouldn't leave me alone. So I went back to it, and then I broke down all of the content. A is for attitude, B is for belief, C is for celibacy, all that kind of thing. Left it again, and I kept thinking, I'll get to it. I need to write this book, I'll get to it. And then I had a conversation with somebody that I had interviewed, and he was saying to me, I want to redo the interview so that I can release it as a podcast. We had that conversation, closed off the call, nothing more. Shortly after that, the word podcast just kept coming. And then lockdown came, and I thought, right, well, I love talking. I've got the content. Let's just start recording. And I recorded it and released it. It's all very nervous, never done it before. And it just took off. And I thought, this is an opportunity. I need to, and there's nothing like having the author of the person who wrote the book or the person who did the podcast to actually answer your questions. So I thought, I'm going to make myself available, and let's do this as a course and see what happens. And it's been amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Awesome. I'm actually quite intrigued. It was something that you said earlier, and it was about the introduction that you were writing, and that became a book in itself.
Yeah.
Would you be able to share some of that? What was it about it that made it become a book?
So what happened was I started to write. And I've always loved, I've never wanted to be a writer. I don't even give myself that title. I've written a couple of books, but I wouldn't say I'm a writer, I'm an author, so to speak. It's never been an aspiration, but I'm a reader. I love reading since I was a child. So I have that kind of imagination that everything becomes a story in my head. When I started writing this introduction, I thought, rather than just make it a factual, Sonia Harris, married to Rob Harris, had 3 boys, that kind of thing, and just kind of facts. I wanted to share a bit of the journey with the readers as to how I'd come to that place, because I think connection is so important. Being able to connect with a reader is so important. So I started to write it, and it became this almost like a story, a journey in itself. And it started with the journey of how approaching my past, and myself and my now husband approaching my past and saying that we believe we're meant to be married. What do you think, type of thing, and me being petrified, and my husband being very laid back and cool about the whole thing, like he is. And as I was writing it, I was reliving it, and then there was bits of it that made me laugh as well, and then I became a bit more descriptive, and then I kind of painted the whole scene, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I said to my husband, I'm on chapter 7. It's meant to be an introduction, and it's still going on. And he said, well, you're gonna have to do a whole book in itself. I said, no, I'm not doing 2 books. I'm not meant to do, God didn't tell me to write 2 books. He said, right. My husband said, did he actually say you must only write 1? And I thought, okay, you're challenging me now. And so I just kept going, and I kept going until I got to the point where I felt like now the content of Rooted for Relationships makes more sense, because you now know the backstory and how we got to the place of actually creating the course in the first place, and why our hearts are so pulled towards, that niche of people. And so that's how it just became a whole book.
Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah.
So it's basically like my autobiography, really, my journey of meeting Rob, and depression and bullying and all those sorts of things that were in my background. It just kind of grew and grew and grew.
Yeah. So you're a coach on relationships. So is this just relationships like man, woman, woman, or is it just for everybody, like a relationship with your siblings or relationships with your parents? What is it? Is it just, how's it focused then?
So the focus is on romantic relationships and people desiring to be in relationships, to be married. Yeah. A lot of the content that we talk about is relative just in friendships, family, how you relate to people, how you are seen by people. Are you putting your best self forward? When you respond that way, how is that perceived? What kind of impression? You hear people say, I don't care what people think. I know who I am. And if they took the time to get to know me, they'd know that's what I'm like. And I say that's wonderful. But how would they get to know you? Because your exterior is so, it's like you're rejecting anyone that comes towards you. Why would they take the time or even bother to come and even ask your name if what they're seeing is someone who's so angry, or somebody who's not presented well, or somebody who just never seems to smile, or do you know what I mean? They're not going to get past that to be able to discover who you are. So the exterior is very important, and we are generally drawn. Like when Marcia first came on, the first thing I saw was the beautiful necklace she was wearing. That drew me, that connected me to her. I thought, here's a woman whose style I can appreciate. You know, so it's that kind of thing. We naturally, even when it's non-romantic, we naturally are drawn to people because of something that you can maybe relate to, you know? And so that connection is important. But if it's all very negative or not very well kept, there's nothing to kind of draw you in that direction, you know? So I often say, why do two people become friends and remain friends for a period of time when we meet thousands of people all the time? Throughout our lives, we would have come across thousands and thousands of people, and yet there is something that draws two people and makes them friends, and they sometimes stay friends for life. Why is that? And it's because there's something about them. There's a connection. You know, it's not always things in common. It might just be, you know, the way they present themselves, the language that they're speaking, so many different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, for myself, right? So I've got, because I can only talk for me. So for myself, I'm thinking, being in a relationship with somebody, and then I've already looked at myself and I've got myself sorted out. I know who I am. I know where I want to go. But then, and I'm in that relationship. How is that gonna? And what if that person isn't in that place, isn't in that space? You know.
Yeah.
So how do you actually, you know, get that person to be in the space you're in, or do they need to be in the same space, or?
They don't necessarily be in the same space, but it's good if they've been able to reflect on themselves and do some work on themselves.
Yeah.
And quite often that isn't the case. You're right. So you would have gone through coaching, you would have gone through some kind of learning, and they haven't done. And that's exactly what happened with myself and my husband. I had been praying and fasting and all sorts for 3 years straight. I mean, I was on a mission. I was studying this thing, you know, and he came straight out of a relationship, which was a complete wreck. He was a mess. He said, right, that's it. God, I am done with women. And then God said, here's your wife. And he was in a mess. He had so much stuff that needed to be dealt with. And so quite often that is the case. But if at least one of you has had some form of, you know, information, knowledge, training, where you can either refer the person, or you can show them some things, or you can begin to understand where they're coming from and accommodate that to a degree. And so that there's at least, if half the job is done, you know. But what is my heart is to restore families. Okay, I'm talking from generations, the brokenness that comes through from generations and the examples that we've seen or not seen. My heart is to restore the family setup, whatever that may look like for you know, whether there's children, no children, whatever, but restore that. And so if there is that much brokenness, you know, in the background, really, if I can reach, you know, even a percentage of people with the knowledge that I believe has been given to me from God, it's not my knowledge, it's not me, then that's my job done. You know, that's what I was called for. Believe me, I fought against this thing for so long, and I just keep coming back to the same thing. And I've accepted now, relationships is my thing. So I need to just get on with it, get on with fulfilling the mission.
There was something that you said actually that you talked about, I think what Leslie was alluding to, you know, like if you meet somebody and you've kind of done work on yourself and maybe the other person hasn't necessarily done that. And, you know, I'm just wondering if there's an imbalance, and is it always that you can help the other person? You know, sometimes maybe that might not be, and you just have to go your separate ways. How would you know?
We can help, but we can't be their savior. We can't be their fixer. We can't be their mums, you know. So there's a lot of, but there's quite a lot that can be seen fairly early on in a relationship. The problem is we get into relationships and we get all sucked up into it, and the people around us don't want to say, look, he's not a good guy, she's not a good woman, because they don't want to hurt you. And so they're kind of hoping that one day you'll turn around and realize for yourself. But when we counsel couples, my husband and I, and they have this sort of thing, there's behaviors that are breaking them up, and we say, when did you first see this behavior? And always it's before marriage. you know, but they just don't want to recognize it. They don't want to see it. Now, that's not to say that happens in every situation, but quite often there are, you know, there's smidgens, there's little, you know, do you know what I mean? Inroads to the way this person might be. And we just don't want to face it. If we've been single for a long time, if we think, you know, if we give up on this one, another one may not come along. There's so many reasons why we don't pull out when we know it's not right. It doesn't feel right. And I've been there. I had to give my husband back and just say, look, there are some issues around you. You're a lovely man and amazing, but there's some things that I just cannot deal with. I can't accept this in my life. I'm not prepared to. I won't. And I said to him, I'm going to give you back to God. We've got to split, you know, go. And I sobbed. I absolutely sobbed for the rest of that day. I just curled up in my bed and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And I thought, I don't want to lose him, but I'm not prepared to go through my life with him as he is. You know, so either he's mine or he's not, but I can't accept him like this. And later that evening, he called me and he said, can I come back round? I want to talk. And we had a talk, and he said, I thought about it and I understand what you're saying, you know, and then began the journey of making sure that that very thing wasn't going to be the thing that would destroy us, you know. And it took a while, but we just kind of stayed on it, you know, and it was my job to not tear him down because of it, but to actually help him on that journey of coming to the realization that actually this stuff, and, you know, I'm just talking about music here. There was types of music that he was listening to that I felt was feeding aggression. Not aggression towards me, not at all. He's actually a very gentle man. But simple things like when he was driving, I used to see this almost transformation in an instant from a very calm, laid back, chilled, almost comatose man to this aggressive face that would just like, and I'm thinking, what is this? What is this? And it wasn't even about what was going on, for example, in the road, somebody's cut him up on the road. We all have a bit of that. But it was more about people taking advantage or making him like doing things that were out of his control.
Right.
And it stems from his childhood because he was very controlled. So he had made a vow, nobody will ever control me like that again. So when someone does something that he hasn't given them permission to do, it riles something up in him. And I said to him, I understand it, but that's not going to be my story. You see, so and that's the thing is, and that's why we go back into the child and we look at what has happened, what has caused you to respond in this way to certain things.
And I totally get that. I totally understand that. And so he needs to find out for himself, you know, that he wanted this, you know. So that person has actually got to be ready, haven't they?
Absolutely.
For, you know,
Well, they need to recognize it in the first place, and more often than not, they totally deny it. They will say, no, I don't. No, I don't. I remember many years ago recording my sister because I was saying something to her about the way she would speak to certain people, and she would deny it. And one day I caught her on camera and I played it back for her, and she said, oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was that bad.
And I think also, you know, what you were saying about deciding that you weren't going to accept that and you were prepared to give, you know, your husband back. And that's the whole thing around honoring yourself, isn't it? Honoring your values. You know, a lot of us, like you said earlier as well, we will kind of brush those things under the carpet because thinking, oh, we don't want to lose the person. But actually, you know, it's actually the opposite, isn't it? If you stay strong with your boundaries, knowing what it is that you will accept and not accept, you know, the person will, you know, like what's happened with you, or they'll just disappear, and then you'll know that wasn't going to be the right relationship for you.
Absolutely. Most people, especially children, they will push boundaries. They will see how far they can go by just doing a little bit of it to begin with. And if they get away with that, you've got a behavior now beginning to happen because they know that you will accept it. And children are very good at that. They'll push and push and push, and they'll see whether if I throw myself on the floor and have a tantrum and mommy or daddy or whoever's caring for me says, okay, fine, or they start doing the negotiations. Please get up, otherwise we won't be able to, you know, or I'm going to call the manager to come and sort you out. what you're doing is you're handing over the authority that you've rightfully been given as a parent and saying, look, I can't deal with you. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to get somebody else to come and help, or I'm going to negotiate with you and say, if you get up, I'll buy you some sweets.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm now rewarding you for the bad behavior. Now, that doesn't necessarily change in adults.
Yeah.
We do it slightly differently. I don't imagine any man or woman would lie on the floor in Tesco's and kick and scream. But the fact is, we sometimes throw our toys out of the pram and we behave in a certain way, and the person will come running after us and say, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, you know, I'm really sorry. And now they've got them. It's like, right, if I do this every time, I'll get that behavior. And in my book, I think chapter 8, I laugh about it now, but when I was living it, it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
But in one of our first big arguments when we got married, myself and my husband, I was upset about something, and it built up so much that I was at the point of, I was fuming. And I said something, I shouted and whatever, and then I left the room and I slammed the door and I walked down the corridor and I slammed the next door and threw myself on the bed, and I was all upset. And then I stopped and I thought, he's not coming behind me. He's not coming after me to kind of, I kind of wanted, in a very juvenile way, I wanted a big shouting match and something dramatic, and then we'd make up and have some like powerful sex to make up and all this kind of thing, something out of a movie somewhere. And my husband was having none of it. So I had to turn around, go back down the corridor, open the door and say to him, can you not see I'm upset? I'm your wife and you don't even care. I've just walked out of the room and you're not even coming after me. You're just sitting there watching the TV. And he turned to me so calmly and he said, I didn't send you anywhere. If you're ready to talk like a civilized grown up, I'll be right here. And he started turning the pages of the newspaper. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know what to do with myself. And I just left the room and went back and laid on my bed. And I think I sobbed myself to sleep. That was the first and last time I ever behaved like that, because he didn't entertain it. It didn't work. So I didn't do it again. And then I knew who I was dealing with. And he actually said it to me, behave like a civilized grown-up, and then we can talk. Those were my instructions, you see. And then from that day on, I never did it again. But as humans, we behave in certain ways. People pamper to it, then we get ourselves into a mess.
But what? Go.
Sorry.
No.
No, I was just kind of curious, because sometimes it's not as straightforward as that, is it? And some people will be in relationships that are very, very manipulative and wouldn't necessarily recognize some of those obvious things. You know, I mean, before you know it, you're in something that's really toxic. What would you say to somebody that's found themselves in that? How could you stop them? You know, what might be some of the red flags, should I say?
So the very thing is education. It's really educating yourself about the do's and the don'ts, you know, your standards, setting your own standards, realizing you have standards. Most people say to me, I don't know what my standards are, but you have thousands of them. If I handed you something, you'd say thank you. That's a standard. Somebody taught you that when someone hands you something, you say thank you. When you enter a room, you say good morning. These are all standards, and they build and build and build. But in the absence of them, you're blowing in the wind. So when you educate yourself and you realize that some of the women I work with, I've worked, you know, coach, when I say certain things to them, they say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Or I do scenarios with them, I do role play with them, and I hear the responses. I did one, I won't give away too much because I still do these sessions, but we had an interaction between a man and a woman. They didn't know each other and they were just talking. And the first thing she said was, oh, your voice sounds so sexy. And I said to her, do you understand that by saying that to this man who you absolutely do not know, the message you're giving him is that it's all very, very physical. And his mind, depending on the type of man you're talking to, his mind may immediately go to what he can physically get from you that day.
Right.
And so knowing how to communicate, knowing the words to speak and what not to speak, learning how to recognize certain behaviors. You know, people tell me examples of men who invite them out and they say certain things that make it, for me, it's quite clear that what the guy is saying, I want to go out with you, but I don't have the money to pay for it. They go along with it. Then when the bill comes, they're shocked that the man is saying, what, so you want me to pay for it. I said, but he already told you that.
Yeah.
But they couldn't see. You see, so the thing is, when we start to work through this stuff and we start to understand that when someone says this or does this, there is a chance, because everybody's different, but there is a chance that what they're saying is this.
Yeah.
And they're testing you.
Yeah.
Because if the man is telling you he doesn't have any money, but you're still going out with him, he's already thinking, oh, here's one. She earns money, she can pay for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm set up here.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of, have you seen the movie Think Like a Man?
Yes.
Do you know the bit where they talk about the couple where they've been together since university, and the girl was getting frustrated because he wasn't proposing? I think he bought her diamond earrings when she wanted a diamond ring, you know. And he said, you're not requiring him to marry you. And there's so much truth in that statement. When you give away so much, you give a date husband privileges. Why would they marry you? They're getting everything they need. They're getting the sex, the food, the accommodation. You know, you're organizing their life for them. You're doing their shopping for them. You're doing everything they need. Why would they marry you? They're getting everything already. They're getting all of the perks that come with marriage. So why are they going to spend thousands of pounds and commit to you when they've already got everything they need?
Wow. So what you're saying then?
So what I'm saying is there are stages. So when you're dating someone, there is a requirement. Like if I'm dating, I want to be dated. I am a queen. Treat me as such. I'm a VIP. Treat me as if I'm important. So don't tell me, oh, we'll just come around my house. No, we're going out and we're going somewhere nice and you're going to pay for it. If you can't afford it, don't date. Don't date. If you are dating or in a relationship and circumstantially your job goes and you hit a rough patch, no problem. No problem. Okay, we work through that together, get you back on track. You're making the effort to get a new job, great. Okay, but do not put yourself out there as someone who wants to entertain dating when you're not in a place to do so. Get yourself straight first. I'm not saying you know, some men, bless them, the pressure is on. They feel as if they have to have a house and a car and thousands in the bank before they can even begin to. Sometimes you build that together, okay? But I do think that there's a limit to trying to entertain somebody or get involved with somebody and expecting to just fall into the life that they've set up for themselves and get all of the perks of that. There's got to be some effort in there. You need to earn that, you know. And when you commit to each other, when you're in an engaged state, then you get a bit more, but not the full package. And also, there's so much to look forward to. But if you do all of it in dating, if you're traveling together, having sex together, you're eating together, you're living together, you're sharing the same space, you're working, you're in a business, what's the point? When you get married, what is there to look forward to? You've done it all already. You see, so there's stages. We move through the stages.
Yeah, that's
Leslie's liking this. Yeah,
it's so interesting. Yeah. So please, if there's any questions you would like to ask Sonia, then please leave them in the comments. Yesterday, Sonia, we were having a conversation regarding this topic, and there was a few women who I was talking to. I'm going to name them: Sarah, Heather, Dawn. I hope you're watching. I hope you're watching, ladies, because where are your questions? And they was like, you know, really intrigued with this. So if people wanted to get in touch with yourself, how can they do that? Would you? So
yeah, there's many ways, but I mean, I'm on Instagram, for example, Sonia Harris 71. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. My website is relationshipsatoz.com, ATOZ.com. You can contact me through there. I do free consultations where we can speak one-to-one initially. You can sign up for one of my courses. I've got an introduction to my next live series on Tuesday coming up, so jump on that. I think you guys are registered, aren't you?
Yes.
I see your names coming up. Yeah, so you can always jump on that one, and that's going to be an amazing. That's the first part of it, and that's where we go into the background, the childhood and all that kind of thing, and answer some questions. What would, you know, did you date through school and university, all that kind of thing. So it's really nice to just kind of focus. The beauty of the course is that it's time for you to focus on you. And I'm not going to tell you what you need to do. You can pull out from the things that we discuss what you feel you want to work on. you know. But it really is a bit of an eye-opener. Even when you think you're there and you're ready, there's something comes up and you think, oh, and there's little triggers, and oh, I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give it away. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm really looking forward to that. But
Yeah.
there is one question that I wanted to ask, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, and it was actually about online dating.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Not a problem. But I think with online dating, the approach needs to be a bit different.
Right. Okay.
With online dating, first of all, you both know why you're there. So that natural, you know, holistic way of meeting somebody, where you might bump into someone at an occasion or through work or at the bus stop, or, you know, and you just start talking and it might grow, and, you know, you have conversation and there may be a friendship might grow from it, or you might immediately feel attracted to each other and have a connection, but it's a bit more organic. Whereas when you go onto online dating, everybody knows why they're there. So they can very, very quickly jump to, do you want to date? Do you want to meet? And for some women in particular, they find it a bit fast. And what also can happen is a lot of women quite like to take their time, get to know the person, exchange a few messages backwards and forwards, give me some information. But what you might find the men do is send me some pictures. Do you want to meet? Can I take your number? They jump in quicker. Now, the thing is, as women, we generally communicate with a lot more words than men anyway. And I'm just generalizing. And our words tend to be more about feelings, emotions, that kind of thing. Men focus more on the black and white and the facts. Okay. So when you go to online dating with a guy and you start saying, so tell me a bit about you, how was your day? You might get answers like, I'm an engineer, my day was fine. And you think, this man's dead. What's going on with it? You know, but they're very unlikely to engage in the level of and when you've got to type all this out, especially on a phone, it's too much. So they'll very quickly go to send me more pictures, because what we tend to do as well is we post our very best pictures that may have been filtered or from the studio and all that kind of thing. And they want to see the everyday pictures. They'll often say, send me full length pictures. They want to know what size you are, what height you are, what your style is like. Yeah. So this is where a lot of online dating, people can see it as a bit of a waste of time, because they feel as if they're not getting the connection that they're looking for. Also, people are using online dating a bit like Instagram now. They literally go on and they're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. It's become like a source of entertainment. And they're looking at still pictures of a person and thinking, nope, nope, nope. And our still picture very often gives like 5% of who we really are. You know, and so it can feel like a bit of a waste of time for some people, but I'm not against it. I think it's another avenue and a way to meet people. But what I do say to people, I would challenge you, is to not just look at someone's image and reject them. Take the time to read the profile, see if anything jumps out at you. What I would advise against is going on dates or connecting with people, not connecting, spending time with people that you're not connecting with. So don't just go on dates for the sake of going on dates, because you'll get weary. You'll go on 5, 6, 7 dates and nothing happens, and you think this is a waste of time. But actually, you could have saved yourself a lot of time by actually seeing, you know, go from, you know, the written text to telephone conversations, possibly to voice notes, so you can hear the person as well, and maybe do a couple video calls. And then decide, actually, I would like to invest more of my time, my money, my outfit, my travel, my whole evening on a Friday, which I could be with my friends. I'd like to invest that time in you, because I've discovered that along the way, even if it's a short journey, there's something about you that intrigues me and I'd like to know more. But don't waste your time on people that there's no connection.
You know, I'm going to go back to doing all the work and the relationships. You find somebody, and I've got to be more positive. I've got to be more positive. You do all that work and nothing happens. And then as well, if you're in, how do you meet people? So we've got online, and you know, it'd be nice to meet somebody at the supermarket, or you know, but it's really hard to meet young people anyway. single people, sorry, anyway. And even now, you know, with the COVID and everything, everybody is a little bit more wary, you know, about meeting. So, you know, how do you get past all of that? I don't think you can ask that question. How do you get past it though?
You can, because the thing is, because of the nature of what I do, I go to so many weddings every year. And if people weren't meeting people, there wouldn't be weddings every year. So it is happening, okay? But it's how it's happening. And like you say, it's hard to know where to go and what to do to meet people. Yeah. And I would say, don't think about meeting people until you know what it is that you want. Until you've built that vision for yourself, then you go after the thing that you want. So for example, if you are looking for a pair of shoes, you're probably not going to go to Lidl because that's not where they sell shoes. Yeah. And yeah, when in dating, we go to the places where there are people that we probably don't want to be with. Yeah. So if you have aspirations to meet somebody who is business minded, who is an entrepreneur, for example, who has some level of wealth, who, you know, is someone who travels internationally, that kind of thing, you probably want to go to networking events. You probably want to go to high end gyms, not, you know, Fitness First and places like that. You know, you want to go to places where people are investing more in their lifestyle. You want to shop in places like Bond Street, not, you know, East Ham High Street, for those of you from East London, you know, that kind of thing. So it's really thinking, you've got to put a lot more thought into it and be strategic about what you do. Are you into art galleries, openings, launches, red carpet events? Get yourself invited to those things, get into the networks of those things. There's always launches and events going on. Go onto Eventbrite and just search and find out what's going on. If you're interested in doing singles events, go to them. They have so many singles events out there. And yes, they are women heavy. They really are. The world is women heavy. You know, we don't have as many options as the men, but that's why we need to be the best we can be, so that when they're looking, because these men are looking just like we are looking. And when they're looking, they want to see a beautiful package. They want to have someone who has intellect. They want, you know, they're looking for different things in different people. So really, depending on where you're looking, might determine who you find.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But it can happen anywhere. You could take your car in to be fixed and he's the mechanic, or he's waiting for his car to be fixed. It could happen at the car park, which is why I say to people, don't go out in your pajamas and Uggs with your headscarf on just because you're going to pick up a bottle of milk at Tesco's. You never know. And that doesn't mean full on makeup and heels, but that means just present yourself well, you know, and put a smile on your face.
There you go.
We often walk around like, you know, the guys coming to talk to us. You know, a guy was talking to me as I was walking my dog yesterday, and he had on, like, I can't imagine, he must have literally come out of his bed and just thrown on anything and was walking his dogs. But we had a conversation about I'm not a single woman, so I'm not looking for anyone, but we had a conversation about dogs. And if I was single and he was single, that could have grown into something. Absolutely. But what would have put me off was the sliders and socks. I would have been thinking, oh, you know, but yeah.
Yeah.
So when I walk my dog, I might wear a pair of jeans and a hoodie, but it's a nice hoodie. Do you know what I mean? And it's decent and it's clean and my hair's tied back. I'll still have my earrings on. I don't have to look homeless when I'm walking my dog. You know, I still make an effort, even though I'm going around the block or across to the park.
Yeah.
So that's the thing is, when, you know, people sometimes, women often, we wait to be found. But if that's your if you prefer to wait rather than approach, then when someone finds you, let them find a nice package. You know, with a smile.
Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, I like that, Sonia. I was listening to your podcast and I did like that. I was like, yeah, every time you go out, make an effort. And that is so true. And even if you're in your house, you know, and you've got that holy dress on, or those rough shorts and the t-shirts and everything. Yeah.
So, and the thing is, let me ask you, how do you feel when you're wearing it in that holy t-shirt? You're probably very comfortable, but you probably don't feel very well put together and very glamorous and very sexy.
No.
If you don't feel like that, how is someone looking at you? How are they going to feel? You know where every hole came from. You might have history, but do you know what I mean? So it's how you feel. When you get ready to go to a special occasion or a wedding or something nice, you feel amazing. You stand straighter. You walk in the place like you own it. You know, that's how you want to come across. And I'm not saying that when you're putting your bins out, you should be dressed up. But I'm saying if you're going to wear a tracksuit, make it a clean one.
Absolutely.
You know, a nice one. No, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be dressed up. You just need to be presentable and make it decent.
Absolutely. What I really liked actually was something that you said, when you were talking about, when being in the places where we're most likely to meet the people that we would want to meet, and and being strategic about it. And I think that's something that a lot of us don't do. We just kind of just lurch from one relationship to the other.
Yeah.
And without plan, you're almost saying in a way that you kind of need to plan it a little bit.
You do.
Yeah.
You need to, and the thing is with relationships, people, they don't teach it in schools.
Yeah.
We're not taught to prepare ourselves for relationships. We kind of assume it will just happen.
Yeah.
We'll fall into it, and then we'll meet someone, and then we'll get married, and we have children, and then we'll retire, and it's all going to happen. And then we get to our 40s and we realize this is not happening for me, and I have like one egg left.
Yeah.
My chances are fast disappearing. And it's really, really difficult. It's hard, especially on women. It's really, really hard. But I think if we begin to invest in this kind of teaching and coaching and learning from young, what happens is you may not feel like you're retaining it, but it kind of goes in the back pocket. And then when the time comes, you just remember a voice saying, I remember, smile, just smile. And that can make all the difference, because one of the things, my husband and I did a session not too long ago about the 7 types of singles. I don't know if you saw it advertised on LinkedIn. And he came on the session to feedback. We focused on different types of singles. And he was feeding back on what it's like as a man to come across that type of single woman. And and it was really eye-opening, really intriguing actually. And one of the things he says, when a woman is very, very, very shy, like eyes to the ground, looks almost uncomfortable, I would have seen that as like a negative, like they're probably not going to want to approach you and it's going to be a bit awkward. And he said, actually, for some guys, that's quite endearing. You almost want to rescue them. And he said, it's quite cute. And if that's who you are, I mean, I wouldn't fake it. But if that's who you are, then that's who you are. You can't be somebody that you're not. But don't be put off by don't think it can't happen for you, because for some men it's like, oh my God, I just want to give her a hug. I just want to, and it can work in that way. But it was quite eye-opening to see from the male point of view how they see our behaviors.
We did have a guest who was a guest presenter who was coming on today, David, but unfortunately he wasn't able to join us because I thought it'd be really interesting actually to find out a man's point of view and what they could bring to that. So it's a shame he couldn't today.
It's always interesting to hear from guys as well. And I think guys, sometimes they get a bit of a bad rap, but they have their own issues. And it's hard when I think, it's hard for us women when we're waiting to be found or we're wanting to get into relationships and it doesn't seem to be working. But I sometimes imagine what it's like for them to have to step out and approach somebody whose face is like stone, who's turning their back to them. And, it's like rejection after rejection, it's horrible. It's horrible. So they need, like, one of the things Rob said, my husband said in that session was, if you just at least make eye contact, just let me know that it's safe to approach, that you're not going to take my head off or whatever. And I said to him, have you ever had occasions where you've liked somebody, but you don't know how they feel, and it ends up coming to nothing because you just didn't have an opening? He said loads of times. Loads of times in his younger days, he saw people and it's just like, I'm not going to risk it. I can't take the rejection today. I'm not going to risk it. Which is sad.
Could you and I know you do the program, the 7 types of singles, but could you give us a brief rundown
on the different types?
Oh no.
I'll give you a couple. So there's one of them is a sit back single. And she's the single that sits back and waits to be found. She's putting in no effort, not trying, not making herself available. She believes that he will just turn up on her doorstep and find her and all will be well with the world. And so, like, we talked about all the different pros and cons of that. Another one is the cynical single. So she's been single for a while, maybe, and she goes to all the singles events, but when you speak to her, it's scary. It's actually scary. She's very cynical about singleness and about relationships and how No one, you know, the church doesn't talk about it, society doesn't talk about it, we're the forgotten breed and all that kind of thing. And they're very vocal and sometimes very forceful about it. And, you know, sometimes I come across them and I think, if I was a guy right now, I'm not sure that I'd want to take you on.
Yeah.
Because it feels as if you've got some deep rooted stuff, some anger going on in there. And so we kind of just broke them all down. There were 7 types and we broke them all down like that. I don't want to say too much because I'll probably run ahead. But it was that kind of thing. So what we did with each one is we spent some time looking at the pros and the cons. Like, so there's like the super busy single, you know, they've got a master's going on, they're working full time, they've got 3 children, they've got social life, they're looking after their elderly parents. I mean, it's all going on. All going on, and they desire to be in a relationship, but they're just so busy. And the danger of that is that you meet someone and slot them in after everything else that's happening, and you're really just breaking down and destroying the relationship before it's had a chance to begin. Because you want to be someone's priority, and even if you can't be at the very early stages, you don't want to wait too long before you start seeing yourself being made a priority in their lives. So if every weekend is taken up with one thing or another, or someone's cancelling on you because something's come up, or, you know, that kind of thing, or they're prioritizing the children over you and all of that, it can end before it's begun, you know. So we looked at the pros and cons of each, and then Rob fed back on what it would be like to meet that type of woman. And so it was quite eye-opening.
Wow. Interesting.
That's so You know what? I've got all your details, and I'm going to leave all your details in the comments. Have we got any questions? Anybody? Let's have a look.
Let's have a look.
Got any questions? Because I know we came on late, and I do apologize to our audience for coming on late today. We are in the studio, but we just had a few technical problems, so that's why we couldn't go live broad. Well, we are still broadcasting, but we're on Zoom. But hopefully next week we will be back and all sorted. So any questions? Sorry.
No questions, but Jackie Walker said how interesting the topic is today, and Costello Townsend Owens, you know, is also wowed by the conversation that we're having as well. So
good. We will definitely be leaving all Sonia's details, and like Sonia said, she has got, it's on Tuesday, isn't it?
Tuesday 7:30 on Zoom. So and the details are on LinkedIn, they're on Instagram, you know, I can give them to you as well, on my website as well, so you can register. Just make sure you register so that you get the link, so you can join. It's a free event, you know, 90 minutes, and we'll just go through some content, get a taste. It's really like a taster of what to expect for the course itself. So the course will be starting in September, but we're doing the introductions now to get people aware and interested, and give them time to tell someone. Because what often happens is people do the course, think, oh my gosh, I need to let my friend know, my sister know, my cousin know, or whatever. And the more people that know, the better we can then begin as a generation, as women, we can begin to do what we need to do on ourselves. Because the thing is, in marriage, people kind of think that there's a magnet. Dr. Miles Monroe, before he passed away, he wrote a few books, and I remember reading those books, and it said that there's no magic wand at the altar. So if you're seeing character traits in someone when you're dating them and you're engaged and they're walking up the aisle, there's nothing that happens at the altar that changes that. They don't walk back down different, you know. And what my husband and I say is that there's actually a magnifying glass. You know, so for everything you're seeing a tiny bit of, it's going to magnify it by 1,000 in marriage. So the more you can get yourself prepared and have an understanding of what you're facing. I mean, marriage is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, but it is a battle. It's a challenge. It's daily effort, you know, but the rewards are great. But it can, sometimes you get the rough stuff. The first couple of years for my husband and I were dreadful. They were awful. We were, you know, he was constantly saying, I didn't sign up for this. You know, and I was walking towards the front door every 5 minutes. I didn't know where I was going to go, but I just wanted a break. I wanted out, you know. Thankfully, we stuck at it, because I'm now getting the marriage that I always wanted. So it's patience.
No, that's brilliant, Sonia. It's been brilliant talking to you, and I'm so looking forward to coming on your platform on Tuesday.
Look forward to seeing you.
That'd be really good. Marcy, is there anything else what you wanted to ask before we leave?
No, I just wanted to just say what a fascinating conversation. There is
Absolutely.
loads more that we could discuss, actually.
Yeah.
You know, and this is just like the kind of tip of the iceberg, really.
Yeah.
But you know, what I would say is for anyone that's really interested, please, you know, hop on to Sonia's website, hop on to the program on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And just to get a feel. Because there's so much value, so much information out there, and that's going to help.
It is. And the great thing is that some people don't like the idea of having a coach or a counselor. It's like you're broken and you need fixing. The great thing I think with Zoom is that you can have a level of anonymity. If you feel more comfortable to come on and just keep your camera off or take your name away, or fine. You know, I would rather, you know, you secretly receive the information than not at all. So please don't feel as if you're going to be picked out, or, you know, I'm going to do I prefer to have the cameras on because it's nice to talk to faces. I've been a black square, and it makes my job a bit easier. But if it's a real issue, and so anyone who's listening who's thinking I need help but I just don't want to walk into a room, or I don't want to have to hold my hand up and say, look, I need help in the area of relationships. Firstly, can I say we all do. I'm married and I need help in the area of relationships. But also you can just relax, just sit behind the camera off and just receive, and then decide for yourself whether there is something you want to invest in further.
No, brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sonia.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure being on with you.
It's been brilliant.
Absolutely.
Please stay right there. And thank you so much to our audience for tuning in. And like I said, I do apologise for being late today. But next week we are back at 5 o'clock. So we will see you on the platform. And I do apologise. I cannot remember our guest coming on next week, but I will be putting out a flyer in the next couple of days so you can have a look then. So thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you live here 5 o'clock next week Sunday at 5. Real Table Talk. See you then. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.